And we are live. Good evening. It is Sunday. It is 8 o'clock. It is time for some Doctor Who. And this week we are doing two episodes. We are doing The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances. And joining me tonight is Chris. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
Every week. And also my son. Say hello.
Goodbye.
There we are. That took effort then. That took actual effort.
It was hard. It was hard for me.
So yeah, tonight we're doing The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances. Arguably one of Stephen Moffat's best stories. I mean, just out of everything he's done, out of all the stories that he's written, this is a top tier story. This is probably his best two-part episode, regardless of anything. So I'm going to come to you first, Chris. What were your first reactions to seeing, not just because, if you're thinking back to 2005, this went out on May 21st. So this went out in 2 weeks' time. This episode will be 15 years old. So, and we had to wait a week before we had the final resolution to this episode. So thinking back to, do you remember seeing this for the first time and what were your impressions of it?
Well, my initial impressions were, I think I need a new pair of underpants. Because it was, especially part one, was absolutely Doctor Who creeped up to 10. It was there. And I agree with what you were saying. Stephen Moffat really pulled it out of the bag for this. When he wrote this episode, I only really knew him for Coupling and The Curse of Fatal Death. So I'd never really looked at any of his more serious writing. And, this was a good episode. This was another having to tell the children that it was only fiction when they went to bed episode.
Yeah. I mean, this was... you brought up Stephen Moffat's actual writing history there. See, I knew Stephen Moffat before this episode because he wrote a little show called Press Gang on Children's ITV.
Was that Stephen Moffat? Well, there you go.
That was Stephen Moffat, yeah. That was the show. And he, it was starring
Julia Sawalha.
Julia Sawalha, who was in Curse of Fatal Death, and Dexter Fletcher, who's now quite a big director. So, I mean, Dexter Fletcher directed Bohemian Rhapsody. So, and he done, what else did he do? Eddie the Eagle as well. So he's done a couple of documentary type films, based on a true story type films. But yeah, I mean, it's this episode. I mean, particularly the first part. I mean, this is a good two-parter anyway. I mean, the second part is just as strong. Two-parters tend to be, the first part's better than the second part. But I think this is quite balanced in the fact that it's just, the second part is just as strong as the first part. So, but this is sort of his first forte into Doctor Who after Curse of Fatal Death. So it's not really one of those people that you can go, oh yeah, this is a guy that's you're gonna be known as one of the best Doctor Who writers. So, but I mean, an amazing episode. Anyway, John, what are your recollections of seeing this and keeping me up all night by not being able to sleep?
I don't really remember the first time I watched this, to be honest with you. I know I skipped Eccleston's run most of it the first time around anyway, but I remember it being, well, I mean, obviously we brought it up a couple of times. It's probably one of the scarier episodes. Like, if somebody were to say, if somebody were to say, think of a horror episode of Doctor Who, maybe Blink, maybe those kinds of episodes might come to the forefront, but this is definitely one of the first I think of. And it's great. I've always had a really fond memory of this. I think if I had watched it the first time around, because, I mean, Unquiet Dead scared me enough to not want to watch the rest of this show. If I had caught this on TV when it came out, I probably would have never picked up the show again. So
yeah,
but I'm glad I did, because this is a great episode and it's a great story, two part. episodes. So yeah.
So Ian has just joined us in the chat, and let me just show you there. He's oh dear, oh,
Hey, Doom Eternal.
and
I
then
haven't
he
actually
said,
caught Doom Eternal yet.
sorry about the capitals. So I mean, my first impression of this episode was we had just previously had 3 money-saving episodes. You know, one after the other. We'd had the last one being Father's Day, which is an all-location shoot. So I was expecting, I could see where the show was sort of, after Dalek, the show was sort of just coming back down and just sort of leveling out again. So I was expecting something to happen. And of course, what we got was probably the biggest effects show from Doctor Who in Doctor Who's history at this time. I mean, like the start of this episode, this episode knocked me a couple of ways. The first way was the fact that in the open we get the TARDIS, a box chasing a cylinder. So you know, it's back to that sort of, oh no, they chasing a bin. And it's like, oh, here we go, we're back down to square one with Doctor Who. And then as the episode starts, the tone changes completely. It's a total shift in tone. And then we get some of the best looking map paintings for London. We get some of the best digital renderings for London. We get a real beautiful score for this episode. We get a lot of, you know, from what we were saying last week with Father's Day, whereby they missed the opportunity to do a synth score because they were in the 80s. This episode actually utilizes a lot of Glenn Miller and uses a lot of period-specific sounds and music. So this blends together really well. If I was to say anything, when I saw this episode, it was the episode that went, I don't know who the director is on this. I don't know. It's like Jim Howes or something like that his name is. But whoever directed the episode was schooled in direction. You know, this was a guy that knew exactly what he wanted to see, exactly what he wanted to do. I'd read the script, knew every line, everything. He picked the locations. And this was everything firing in the right direction. And I would say that this is the episode I would say is probably the first proof that the BBC didn't care what Doctor Who did. This is the episode whereby the BBC, whereby you realise that BBC would just say, no, go and make the show. We don't care. Go make the show. So they went, okay, if you say so, because this episode is the first episode that makes you go, oh, is this really suitable for 7 o'clock on a Saturday night? Because I'm sitting here watching it in broad daylight, and this is giving me the creeps.
Did they not want to remove the sound effect, didn't they? That's the one thing they were told to do.
Yes.
Were they? Okay, that's interesting.
But the thing is, the BBC didn't, like, at this moment in time, every episode of Doctor Who now is made by committee.
Yeah.
And this wasn't. This was made by a group of nutcases in Cardiff running around with a camera. And it's a totally different vibe. A totally different vibe to what we get present day. And I think what this does really well is illustrate just how dark, because this is what I was expecting out of Peter Capaldi's Doctor, and I think a lot of Peter Capaldi was expecting this out of his Doctor, because if you look at what he does in Series 10, like this is very close to sort of, in that you can't run away from it. You know, you can run, but it's walking and it's catching up with it. So this is very similar to sort of Heaven Sent. In feel, you know, it's always there. It's always this looming threat. And of course, this does have what I would consider to be the biggest brown trousers time, which is the whole bit where they are in Constantine's office and the tape runs out.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that was like, because I didn't even catch on. The first time I watched it, I did not catch on at all. And it was just like, oh, the tape's run out. And then he keeps talking, it's like, the tape's run out.
What's that sound? Yeah.
So I just put this up what
Similar to the clock
Ian
moment
said.
Kind of similar to the clock moment in, yeah. You know what I mean?
So
Girl in the Fireplace. Anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, like, well, again, if you look at what Moffat has written through, I mean, he I've said this before, I'll say it again, right? I know some people might have a different opinion to me on this. Stephen Moffat is a great story writer. He's not a great showrunner. He needs somebody over him to rein him in.
Kind of like a George Lucas in that way, I think.
He's it's a different job. It's like saying to somebody, "You're a great carpenter, so can you be a foreman on a building site?" It's a totally different position. He also wrote a very well regarded short story about manipulating someone's timeline until they were in a good mood to do him a favor.
Isn't that Carol?
Oh, by the way, speaking of Stephen Moffat, he has just recently written a new episode of Doctor Who called Pompadour. And I don't know if you've seen it, but it was done for the Doctor Who Lockdown. It's actually on the Doctor Who Lockdown YouTube page. It's 2 minutes long, and it stars a very nice woman who I chat to frequently called Sophia Miles. And she came back to play Madame de Pompadour in this 2 minute story, and I'm not kidding you, it is bloody brilliant. I promise you, it is the best Doctor Who we've had for a very long time, and it is 2 minutes long.
Afterwards,
I promise you, it's brilliant. Yeah. Again, they've got Sophia Miles back to play Madame de Pompadour, and it's just fantastic. It's this little moment about Versailles and all this stuff. You don't get to see any sort of no, you do get to see stuff. I'm not going to spoil it. Just go watch Pompadour. But yeah, and it's penned by Stephen Moffat, and yeah, just cracking, absolutely cracking. But
good stuff.
Yeah, as for the rest of his run, I mean, like with Stephen Moffat, for me, his run, he started waning towards the end of Matt Smith, and when Peter Capaldi came on board, you know my feelings about series 8 and 9. I can't possibly watch that trash. And Doctor really hasn't recovered for me since, and I don't think it's recovered for a lot of fans. We got some proper garbage coming out of Doctor Who, and I think maybe it was because he was splitting his time between that and Sherlock, so he wasn't being able to give it his full attention. But I mean, this was like, if this is your resume for I'm going to be a showrunner, Empty Child, Doctor Dances, oh, what a thing to have on your resume anyway. I mean, if you look at the hits and don't look at the misses, he is definitely probably the most prolific Doctor Who writer we've had in its history. So I can't think of anyone who's done equal. I would say Russell T Davies is the best showrunner, but I would say Stephen Moffat's probably the best writer. So
you're only counting modern Who in that, aren't you?
I mean,
because I don't think anyone at all has
Terrence
even touched the Philip Hinchcliffe era yet. For me personally,
I mean, again, it's a different type of writing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because they haven't done the 6-part stories or the 11-part stories. They really haven't. I know people talk about story arcs as if it's something new, but they were always serialized in the classic era. It was an ongoing story. You'd run for 6 to 8 episodes per story, So that was your story arc. You'd get 3 of those a season, you know. So, but it's a different type of writing, isn't it? I mean, you're right. If you go back again, if you look at Terrence Dicks, Robert Holmes, Terry Nation, they've turned out some of the best Doctor Who. But I don't think they had to turn out as much Doctor Who. Like, they've had to turn out a few stories here or there, where Stephen Moffat had to do 34 stories. Like, that's a lot. That's an awful lot. I disagree. Heaven Sent is my favorite ever episode. That's from Ian. I mean, look, Heaven Sent was absolutely true. Heaven Sent was the one story out of Series 9 which made me go, oh. And it's because it was Peter Capaldi by himself. You know, there's nobody else in that story at all. The problem was that you get the next episode after that, which is Hellbent. So it's... I mean, yeah, I think that he's definitely one of the best prolific Doctor Who writers in its history. I don't think you could. I mean, you could make a case about other Doctor Who writers, Andrew Cartmel. You could make a case about they could all make a claim, but this guy Stephen Moffat has done more than anybody else, and has done. I mean, this guy penned Day of the Doctor. You know, and I mean, what a spectacular bonanza that was. And just so you know, by the way, since we're talking about that, I'm going to add something on here. We're talking about Doctor Who writers. We haven't mentioned Chris Chibnall for obvious reasons. He is the guy that's going to be penning the 60th anniversary show. So there were all these people that were talking about, oh, is he leaving this year? Is Jodie leaving this year? It's my understanding that Chris Chibnall has a 5-year plan. So he's going to be writing for at least the next 2 years, at least.
Right.
So make it that way. The problem I've got is that it leaves you with the timeless children, and even if they change it now to change how the episode played out, the problem is that they sat with people. So if people are going to watch the next one, it's like, oh, if they undo what they did in Timeless Children, people will be like, well, you're just backpedaling now. Even if it was his original plan, because they've let it sit with people for over a year. Do you know what I mean? People are just going to think he's just backpedaling as opposed to actually having a narrative plan, which he probably does have.
I'm not going to lie. Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, I'm not going to lie, I still haven't caught season 12. I'm aware of like the situation, what's going on.
I don't think you are.
Child thing and all that,
I don't think you are. I think
I am.
I think people who watched it aren't aware.
Oh, okay, right. Well, yeah, I get you, but yeah.
Of the past 57 years, that really, really put a divide in the Doctor Who fandom by a huge margin. But anyway, so it's now come to 20 past 8. I think it's time we made a start on The Empty Child. What do you say?
Seems like a good time, mate.
Yeah. So I've got mine queued up ready.
I'm paused at a Starfield, right at the beginning.
Oh, okay. So that's after the actual BBC logo. Okay.
Well,
BBC logos on mine. I trimmed them off.
Stream's lagging for me a little bit, so I'll try and make sure it's timed up.
Okay, well, I'm about to start in 3, 2, 1. Go slowly. BBC, a television program. They have to say that at the start. A television program. Don't get confused with radio. Yeah, Starfield. There it is. The dustbin. That looks nothing like the drawing that the Doctor does later on. Looks nothing like it.
I mean,
That looks
it's
like a-
vaguely the same shape.
No. Good little close-up here into the TARDIS. Because, they're doing that. Pyro. The good thing is that they're shooting it with a 50mm lens. So they're actually a lot further away from the sparks than they appear to be. But it's still close. There we go. And Scream. Worth noting, this episode has the distinction of being the first time ever the TARDIS lands while the camera's moving. It's the first ever motion control shot with the TARDIS.
Oh, wow.
Oh, they did quite a few firsts in this series, didn't they?
They did, yeah, they absolutely did. There's 19 VFX artists working on this episode. Here it is. The first ever time the TARDIS lands while the camera's moving.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. I never even thought about that.
Yep. Motion control shot. They had 19 visual effects artists working on the show for over a year. This show went into post-production before it went into production.
I mean, that isn't totally uncommon, but that's impressive.
Yeah, and this is Womany Street in Cardiff, next to the
I
castle.
was going to say, this is all Cardiff, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I mean, most of the episode is Cardiff. I mean, this street is normally used, it was normally used for the Sarah Jane Adventures. It was quite a popular location.
I have to rely on you for, a pair of you for locations because I haven't been to Cardiff in 20 odd years.
That's okay. You haven't missed anything. So it's all changed.
No,
Well, they renamed the stadium or something, but
Well, the bus deck was no BBC.
I was basically this big 20 years ago. So, I don't remember.
Yeah. But no, this is Womany Street. This is literally, if you were to come out the street and look right, you're looking at the big Cardiff Castle Tower with a clock tower. It's literally, there's actually a street there, which is a hidden street called Jones Court, and it's this perfectly preserved turn of the century street that nobody can get into. It's just perfect. It's just this own little. I mean, people who live there can get in, obviously, but
I mean, I'm sure you could if you wanted to. Like, you wanted hard enough.
Ah, yeah.
Well, I encourage that kind of behaviour, but.
So this is actually Headland School. See, this is what they were. This is how good they were at choosing locations in this show. Didn't have to build the set. Didn't have to. They saved money. This is just Headland School.
I don't,
there's the
I
creepy-
mean, Doctor Who, it's not exactly an expensive looking show, especially in the early years, but it's still impressive, being able to film like a TV show with minimal.
But again, this is just, but it's just what you can do with a bit of dressing. There's
for sure.
plenty of
Jazz club, instant jazz club.
So the girl that was actually singing that song, by the way, I can't remember her name, Katie something, her name is. I think this is the only TV show she's ever done, and it was actually her singing the song. She's normally a stage performer. I think she normally does river dance or something like that. God, he's like a mini Darth Vader, and he's scarier than Darth Vader.
I don't know. I reckon he's harder than Darth Vader.
Yeah, he probably is. He probably is. Yeah, because at least up there he's got the high ground, so Darth Vader would lose.
Yeah, exactly. And he's got all of his limbs.
Yeah, exactly. Darth Vader has lost more limbs than there are limbs to lose.
But
He
only
lost
from
his
a
right
certain
hand.
point of view.
How'd you do that?
He's lost his right hand 3 times. Can you imagine? Like, yeah, he's lost his hand again. Well, it must be Tuesday.
Yeah. It's down the back of the couch.
Ah, what a prat.
Now, I want to know why you'd climb a rope if you didn't really know exactly where the rope came from. I mean, she looks
Well,
up, sees that it's a balloon,
that's a brilliant shot.
but only
that is.
after she's already halfway up the rope.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
shot there
okay.
gives you a touch of vertigo as it just drifts over the
Yeah.
roof.
That's
It's
a
a
lovely
nice
shot
shot.
of London. It kind of reminds me of It reminds me of if you've seen the original cut of Army of Darkness. At the end, there's a shot where Ash is in London and it's all destroyed, and it kind of pans out, and it's all you can tell it's like models and things like that, but it's this weird parallaxing view, and
Yeah.
it reminds me of that, but it's like this old-timey film feel, and because it's in the 40s, I think it's actually like, more appropriate, you know.
Yes. But no, yeah, brilliant matte painting of London. And so what it is a matte painting that's then projected onto a 3D model, so you can actually move the camera. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
basically the projector and the camera are lined up, so that wherever you move the camera, the projector is hitting in from exactly the same angle, and they just project onto 3D
Oh wow.
geometry,
Okay.
and then everything lines up, and it gives you an advantage of being able to move the camera and shadows.
So it's like I guess like using a matte painting as texture,
Yeah, it's using a 3D model
but
and it's a very basic 3D model, and then the matte painting is
yeah,
projected onto the 3D model
just like
to give it shape. It's kind of like what they do with Google Maps now. Very similar.
Got to say though, while you're on
oh
the
wow,
subject
okay.
of that matte painting, the bit where the planes come in towards Rose
Oh,
for the time was a very
good
good.
one. No. This is Doctor Who doing proper visual effects. Like that barrage balloon. I don't know, Chad. Do you remember going to the Red Dragon display in Cardiff? I mean, it was a long
Maybe.
time ago. It was in the Red Dragon Centre. It was the Doctor Who exhibition in the Red Dragon Centre, and they actually had the model of the
Oh
barrage,
yeah.
and it was about 5 feet long.
Huh.
The barrage balloon. It's made of expanding foam and cling film. It's basically cling film
Right,
shrunk
okay.
over the top of it to make it look like it's stretched.
Methods never change, do they?
Oh,
Kind of beautiful in a way.
very clever. But it looked good. It looked really good in person.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what matters, and you don't need to be super complicated to make things look good. I mean, usually the simplest thing is the best thing to do.
Now then, that woman is Cheryl Ferguson.
That there, yeah. Oh yeah.
She is massive. I mean, like not physically. I mean, yes, but
I mean,
what I mean is
all right.
she's coming up on her 400th episode of EastEnders.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that is Florence Hoth
I don't know.
as Nancy,
Hmm.
and her mother is Tina Martin, and Tina Martin is a very familiar face on British TV. And if you want to know what Tina Martin looks like, that with blonde hair, she looks exactly like her mother.
Whoa.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm not keen on that particular matte painting of Albert Hall. Not just Albert Hall, but what am I on about?
Did you mean St
Paul's
Paul's?
Cathedral.
St Paul's Cathedral. Sorry, I'm not keen on that because it
Yeah.
didn't really have that sort of 3D shape to it. It looked like a very flat image.
Well, you stick to Cardiff. I'll stick to London.
Yes. No, but
Here he is, the man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah. This was an interesting choice because I did not know who was behind those binoculars. And that is Cardiff University. That balcony, that's Margaret's office from Boomtown, which is the next episode after Dr. Dances. Exactly the same window.
Oh yeah, is he the secretary kind of guy? Look at him. Look how young he looks. Wow.
So, yes, arguably the most popular. We talked about this a little bit last week. He's arguably probably the most popular secondary character in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult to name another person as popular as Captain Jack. The choice
That's
of
just
John
pure
Barrowman
charisma,
to
isn't it?
play him, though, was, I have to say, brilliant, because my experience with John Barrowman was he presented Electric Circus on Live and Kicking, and he also presented a children's BBC show called The Movie Game. And the next thing I seen him in was Doctor Who, and I'm like, didn't see that coming.
This is the first time.
He's also like the most high concept type character as well.
Pardon? I missed that.
Sorry, I didn't know if I was interrupting Chris there.
No, you carry on, mate. I hadn't probably started.
Okay, sure. My internet's lagging just a little bit, but it's not as bad as it was last time. So, but yeah, I was going to say, like, Jack is definitely the most high concept secondary character in the era, I think. I mean, until you get like rid of the song, but even then, he's still more high concept sci-fi is, you know. And
that there,
it's unusual for modern Who to have companions like that.
That there is actually Billy Piper taking a 65-foot fall. It wasn't a stunt person.
Oh, wow.
That was Billy Piper on the rope, and they dropped her from 65. It was filmed inside an aircraft hangar, and they dropped her 65 feet. And she's bloody well done it.
I believe they showed that on the
Continental,
didn't they?
Yeah. But I think a lot of people assume it's a stunt woman, and it's not. It is actually Billy Piper doing it.
I mean, you would,
that
wouldn't you?
scream is genuine.
Yeah, fair play.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say before was this was the first thing I ever remember seeing John Barrowman in. So.
Yeah. But no, again, he used to present Electric Circus on Live and Kicking in the mornings, and then he done the movie game, which was this. It was like a roll of film stretched on the floor, and each frame of film was where you have to stand, like kind of like I don't know. I don't know what sort of game you'd be like. You'd stand on a square, and you could ask for like I'll have a 1 point question or a 2 point question, and however many points you had could determine how many squares you could advance. And the idea was to get to the end of the thing. If you got to the end, you'd win all the prizes. So it was quite a interesting game.
The first thing I saw him in was Doctor Who, and then later on Torchwood.
Yeah, well, again, Live and Kicking is finished by this point. I think Live and Kicking finished in like 2001, I think. Shame, it was a brilliant show, that was. This is Bargoed Street in Cardiff. Because if you want a place that looks like London's been bombed, why not? There is, right, for my money, I know I don't know who decided, right, but the doctor's about to intervene in this scene, right? There is a kid with a dark grey jacket on, and he, for me, gives me the best moment in Doctor Who. It's a brilliant little moment. They're all sitting around, they're all hungry, eating. So he's sitting at the end there, and it's one of these moments whereby the director obviously says to the kids, okay, it's time to get up and run for your life. And watch him carefully, because he gets up and runs for his life, but he leans over the table and grabs a pie first. It's brilliant.
That's 100% what you do, though, isn't it?
It is. That's what I mean.
It's like when they tell you not to bring your stuff in a fire alarm. You do anyway.
It's just one of the best actors. He thought about it like they're hungry, they want food, they're starving, they snuck into this house to have food, and now they're going to run for their lives trying to take some food with me. You watch carefully. He just grabs a pie and runs. It's brilliant. I promise you. So for such a young actor as well to think of that.
I reckon he probably just wanted the pie, but maybe I'm selling the kids short, you know?
Oh yeah, no, he probably did, yeah. But done yet. Let me just. It's a nice conversation that the doctor has here as well, where he's trying to. He's not objecting to these kids like sneaking in. Let me just close that a little bit. So I'm just going to show you something
Yeah,
here.
see, it's the same basic shape as the ambulance, you know?
No, it's not. That was a bloody watermelon. Here we go. Watch this already. I'm trying to think which one is in. Oh no, it doesn't do yet. Yeah, bugger off.
Yeah.
Don't lock the door. Open it. Kick him in the face. Just kick him. Boot him.
I don't think it'd do anything. You just turn into one, wouldn't you? You can't
Not
make physical
instantly.
contact with it.
No, you can catch it. It's a pandemic, like so.
Yeah.
Right, ready, pie.
Classic. Like
Best actor in the entire show. In your face, Christopher Eccleston. So, just so you know,
I think if this, yeah, go on.
just so you know, when we were talking about Tina Martin, who was Nancy's actual mother. Let's see, over there. Yeah, I add that to the stream. That's her. That's her mother.
All right.
It's
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
no,
her.
you look exactly the same.
It's just her, yeah. If you imagine her with blonde hair, yeah, that's her. There's no making a mistake on that.
Yeah. No, that's the same as well.
Like those
I love
monkey,
those little monkeys.
like those
the jolly
monkey things ain't creepy enough.
I know. Everything in the show is designed to creep you up.
The
The lighting's amazing. The setting's amazing. I mean, it's strange that you would set a horror film in the middle of a city. You know, most horror films are set on
typically not. No, I mean,
middle of nowhere.
I've heard
So
that a lot of British horror stories tend to be, you know, you get films like 28 Days Later or films like, well, I mean, things like this or things like, I mean, with obviously things like Jack the Ripper and industrialization and things. I feel that a lot of people, British horror tends to be set in cities a lot more than American horror, which is more about like being in the woods, being in isolation, or being in, you know, space, yeah, Alien or Jason X. But it's interesting that I don't know how true that is. I haven't looked into it terribly, but yeah, it's I think it's scarier when it's like you can be in civilization and the thing is still going to kill you. Like, you still can't stop it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And this year is a.
I think this concept has the ability to be really silly. Yeah.
And this is a bit of a cobbled together set. Built out of bits of the set from the long game. It's built out of like the desk and things like that. All the monitors, they're all the monitors from the long game. But it's incredibly well. This is what I mean about this team that's working on Doctor Who right now for series 1 are far more resourceful and less wasteful than what we get in for recent Doctor Who.
Mm.
You know, it's very much we don't have a lot. Let's do what we can, and they do it. That is a
Yeah.
beautiful looking set, really well lit, nice
It
chair.
is Spock.
It's Captain Jack's ship. He's got a bed.
Yeah, he does.
Of course he does.
The lovely moment of between him and Rose there, whereby she was going to faint and he catches her and stuff like that. Again, stunning matte paintings.
Also interesting thing for the plot now here when they introduce the nanogenes, and it's like you don't even think about them. You know what I mean? It's like it's just here it is. Here's the thing he can do. Oh, isn't he cool? And then the fact that this is actually relevant to the main story, and it's like wow, it's just a hidden little thing. It's like here's your token.
So what I would say is that this is a big difference in how you write a just a character. This guy's not even a gay character. This is an omnisexual character. They've called him that. Now, we talked about this a while back when we done the roundup for series 12. With me and Chris, were talking about it. There's an episode in season 12 where these two guys are gay, and the entire point of these guys being gay is to be gay in the episode. There's nothing else there for them. They just put in that episode.
It does absolutely nothing to equality apart from hold up a big sign saying "gay," which was totally unnecessary.
Yeah. Whereas a character like Captain Jack now, he's already flirted with a guy. He's flirted with Rose. He's a very flirtatious. He is this American. He's sort of the James Bond character of Doctor Who. But the big difference here is that those two characters from series 12 can be taken out of the show and it wouldn't make a blind bit of difference. You take Captain Jack out of this episode, you don't have an episode because he set the whole thing up. It's centered around him. He's essential to the start of the plot, the end of the plot. He saves Rose. He saves the Doctor. He is integral to this story. You cannot remove Jack from the story. You don't have a story. And again, the fact that the way that sexuality in this show is that he is exactly the same with men as he is with women. There's no off balance, and suggestive is it enough because it's not what the show's about. It's who the character is, but it's not what the show's about. And it's very important to make that distinction. Unless you're going to plan on setting an episode around, and this episode is set around. This episode was crafted for Captain Jack. So it's just this is a far better thing.
I'm not sure how people originally thought about Captain Jack when he was first on the show, because I've grown up with the character just being a thing that exists. Like I've always known the Captain Jack part of Doctor Who. I know.
That's exactly right, though. That's exactly the right way to think about it. Is the fact that you shouldn't be. You're not thinking about the gay person in the show or the omnisexual in the show. You're thinking Captain Jack.
Well, as I remember, when it was first on, I'm pretty sure most people went, "Oh, he's a bit saucy," and that was it. It didn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. That's the point. It doesn't. It's not essential. It's who the guy is, but he's the same with everybody, and that's it. And if he was just gay, like if you just flirted with the soldier at the start, it doesn't matter. And like this is, we get in the next. I think it's the next episode where Nancy's caught by Mr. Lloyd, and he turns out that he was the one messing around with the butcher, not his wife.
Yeah.
And even that is enough to go, right then, clearly he's gay in a time when it was frowned upon to be gay. So his marriage is a bit of a sham. But even then, you don't need
That's very
to put him in the show.
Character.
I mean, the handling of it is much better than, because it's the same with all the relationships. It's a much better way of just handling it, because look, he is flirting with Rose right here exactly the same way as he would flirt with anyone.
He's definitely the sort of swashbuckling adventure hero type character with that, and he's kind of that's the. But it's like a facade. It's like he's built this sort of character because when it, later on, it's like I'm a con man. That's what I do. You know what I mean? It's like okay, right. We've got through that kind of veneer of him being this sort of martini drinking, flirtatious, like action adventure space hero character, and it's like no, he's just a criminal. But it's good for the con, and I like that. I think it's interesting.
He's got the swag. He's got the swag. He's got the charm, and it's just a much. It's not again. It's not just him. There are other elements of gay people in the show that is just handled a lot better, and it's not a question of just gay people. I say that because it's just pointing it out, but it's all of the relationships. Rose's relationship with the Doctor in this episode, if you watch it carefully, the Doctor is very jealous of Jack.
Yeah, for sure. There's a sort of triangle forming.
Yeah, but it's not so much of the romance. Because when we get to Part of the Ways, and there is that inevitable kiss at the end, it's a bit creepy. In my view, anyway, it's a bit creepy. At the end is a bit creepy, but
I mean, at that point, I guess they're friends, and he feels like he's gonna die. So I'm like, yeah, sure. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah,
I've never thought about it too hard.
No, but that's the whole thing, though. You don't have to, because it's dealing with a much lighter touch. Because the sexuality in the show is not what the show is about.
No, for sure.
And this is Barry Island. Again, if you want a place that looks like bombed out London, Barry Island.
I think we spoke.
I don't know if I think I've only ever been there once.
This is actually directly.
I think we spoke about it before. The last time I went to Barry Island, there was still trains there, lots of them.
This is the train line. This actually where they're filming here. Barry Island train line. This is the Railway Heritage Museum. It's the end of the line where you get off the train to go to the fairground and the beach. That's where this is. It's the bridge that you're sitting on is looking at the station. I'll show you after the show. It's easy like we did last week. It's easy to show you where things are in context. But yeah, I mean, obviously this is also the area where they filmed Flatline as well, for the where the Tardis became really, really small.
Oh.
Also a crap episode. Not this. I love this.
I can't argue with Ian's statement there either.
Oh, but it's just a much better than Chibnall, yeah. Absolutely. Oh, look. Chibnall has never done a great episode of Doctor Who, right? I mean, if you look at Russell T Davies' approach to Doctor Who, he is saying the psychic paper gets you in the door, the sonic screwdriver gets the door open, but it doesn't get you past enemies. So, you can't use the sonic screwdriver to be the result of the episode. You can't fix the episode. Whereas Chris Chibnall wrote Flatline, which was the end of the episode, and also Power of 3. And the end of Power of 3 is the Doctor waving his sonic screwdriver at the screen.
So I was just chuckling at what Ian's just put.
Barry Island.
Who is big Barry Island?
This is... no, you've already seen this in Doctor Who before. This is the Children's Royal Infirmary, which was first seen in Aliens of London. Same hospital. And of course, we're about to be introduced to Dr. Constantine, played by Richard Wilson.
Really?
What a brilliant casting. You have to do.
Sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize for that. That was okay. I'm okay with that. Man, this guy's had a brilliant career.
He was
Like
even good in, he was even good in Merlin.
yeah. But every time he struck it big, he has struck it big. You know, only when I laugh was huge. I still remember, and it's still funny. But
Yeah,
One Foot in the Grave, massive show.
I've heard of that. I don't know what it is, though, but I've heard of it.
Well, again, you would normally do it. Richard Wilson's one of these character actors that would do normally serious parts. You'd normally cast them as, say, a judge or a lawyer or solicitor, something like that.
Some
So
important guy.
when they cast him, like I thought it was funny when they cast him in this because when I seen him, it was just like I'm HAPPY, I'm HAPPY. I know I am. I'm sure I am. I'm HAPPY. So I thought it was good casting. Brilliant choice. In his younger days, he would have been a better choice, a good choice for the Doctor.
yeah.
Chandler seems to have crashed.
Yeah, I was just about to point out where the missing sound effect was as well.
Maybe she just hit refresh. I hope it's in this crash, not me anyway.
Well, I'm still receiving you loud and clear, so
See, he's using the sonic screwdriver as just a tool. It's just a thing for giving him information. It's not fixing the problem.
Mm.
I take it you're still there, Chand?
Yeah, it's like a magic wand can wave and fix all the problems.
Yeah, no, it's just your picture's frozen.
What's for what and who?
Your picture has frozen.
Hold on. Yeah. I'm swapping networks because like I can hear you now on this one, but my picture's frozen and obviously my internet crap. So I'm gonna try and fix it again, and we'll see what happens, gents. I apologize.
No, don't worry about it. It's okay. We can hear
yeah,
you.
no worries, mate.
Yeah, that was a lovely shot as well. When he's talking about the symptoms, then he does the close up on the hand. A good camera view whereby you can see the skin, the start of the scar on the back of his hand. And this looks absolutely horrendous when he and in a good way. Ian says he's here.
I don't
Yeah.
imagine this is better.
Yeah, brown trousers type.
Is this better? No.
I didn't make you go, oh, when it first happened at all, did it?
Oh,
That gave me the same creeps as all the bodies sitting up in sick bay in the Next Generation episode Night Terrors.
oh yeah. Watch how painful this looks now. This looks horrific.
It's grim. It's really bad. Like it's.
But again, they would never do this these days. They couldn't do it because the BBC would be all over them. They'd be like, no, you can't do
Yeah.
that. And this is Richard Wilson just
Like
acting his ass
it's
off.
not traditional violence, right? It's not like
It's
just blood or
body horror,
anything.
but it's body
Like-
horror that great.
Is it?
Well, yeah.
Not disturbed. There's still like some candy.
like you've all seen, you can see all the ones with the masks on already, but you're able to see how it happens, and it's not nice.
This is where they removed the sound effect, Chandler.
Yeah,
Apparently there was a proper sound of a jaw splitting and bones breaking, and the BBC went, it's all right, apart from that bit.
it's just horrendous. Because the idea is that his face is becoming the mask, so all the flesh and everything inside is changing properties. But yeah, absolutely horrendous, in a good way. Probably the most famous quote in science fiction.
Well, 51st century. I mean, I'm sure.
Captain Jack, his costume has appeared in several shows outside of Doctor Who as well. It's not very impressive to say this, but when they did the reboot of Knight Rider, there's an episode of Knight Rider where they're all locked inside the base on Halloween, and the character of Billy shows up dressed as Captain Jack Harkness. It's a shame because it could have been a good show, but it just wasn't.
Could have been a lot worse as well, though. I've seen a lot worse than that show.
Yeah, but it was crap. They keep the sound effect.
I didn't mind it. I like the voice of Kit anyway.
It was Val Kilmer.
Yeah, I know.
See, this is it. This is where things start piecing together. It's a bin. Again, that man is a walking piece of merchandise, isn't he?
Yeah.
The jacket, the gun, the suit, the time manipulator. John Barrowman made a shed load of money out of Doctor Who. And what a brilliant character.
Topical.
Mm-hmm. Very. Yeah. Like no. And this thing even has. It's not just force abilities. This thing can do a lot more. He doesn't have midi-chlorians, he has full fat chlorians.
My internet's struggling pretty hard with this stream, and I'm not sure I'll be able to keep it going because whatever network I switch to, it's just lagging. I mean, I can't really hear what anybody's saying most of the time.
Well, what you can do when the episode finishes, you can hit refresh.
Yeah.
We can wait in between episodes.
Hold on a second. I didn't quite catch that sentence.
Hit refresh. Yeah, look at that. You can see the back.
I'm trying to make this work. It'll be fine. I'm sure it will.
Again, just refresh, Chan. But the end of the episode, yeah. That's the end of The Empty Child. So let's stop that there, and we shall go back. And before we start the Doctor dances.
It has got a recap on the Doctor dances. I'm assuming we're just going to roll with that.
I don't know, because if it's got a recap at the start, may as well just run it for just go with the recap. Just keep running it. Just
Right.
go. Well, if we skip it, we can end up being all over the place. If we go with the recap, we'll do it in a second. Charlie, press reset on your refresh on your internet, on your stream. Just F5. Because if you drop out, you can always come back in. Hello?
I think that might be what he's doing, mate.
Could be, but he hasn't dropped it on the stream. So, anyway, while he's doing that, what did you think now that you've seen this again?
It's a great episode. Got no arguments from me. It's, as usual with the BBC, they've got the period look right. They've yet again managed to find children that are convincing actors, because not all children are. But the children they've got in this, and like you say, the little guy that grabbed the pie, I remember noticing that when it was on before. I would have assumed that was directed, but you say he did that ad lib.
As far as I know, yeah. I mean,
the
I don't recall the director bringing it up, and I've looked at notes there, and as far as I can tell, like everything that kid did was ad lib, because he didn't have. I don't think he had any lines, so he was just acting his ass off in the background.
Well, he did well. Yeah. As you say, it's I think they ruined it. I know it caused a bit of quite a lot of complaints that they put a next time on the end of it.
Yes.
Which they shouldn't have done. Not on a cliffhanger. I mean, all right. I mean, you can pretty much work out if you've watched television ever who's likely to survive the next episode. But to chuck it in the next time trailer, I think that was a bad move. But other than that, it's a fairly flawless episode.
It's pretty bloody good, and again, I think it's a good example of well directed. It's a good example of how a director can make an episode by swapping the pace, by choosing the right angles, by getting the right effects people in, by so all these things that have added to this show. I mean, the guy who directed this, let's be honest here, the guy who directed this had a pretty good run with Doctor Who. He done 5 episodes. He done The Empty Child, Doctor Dances. He done the Christmas Invasion, New Earth, and then done School Reunion. So you're looking at.
So I'm just seeing who it was. James Hawes.
Yeah. Yeah. Just chatting with Chandler for a second. Yeah, just told him there to just reset it. Good director. But it is the difference. What makes an episode? It's a great story. You've got a fantastic setting. I mean, Doctor Who doesn't tend to do World War II. It's done it a couple of times, but it's not very. I mean, we're talking a couple of times. We're talking about New Who now, whereby The Empty Child done it, and then Victory of the Daleks did it.
And let's kill Hitler.
And let's kill Hitler, which was, let's forget that story.
It was on topic. It's a second World War story.
But I mean, like, it's not normal for Doctor Who. I'll say this: for Let's Kill Hitler, it's not normal for Doctor Who to go to a different country. To do Let's Kill Hitler. Like, I thought that's what was good with what? I'll be in the chat. Watch the episode with you. Okay, well, chat in the chat then, Chan. Yeah, I can share your comments in the chat. Yeah, well, when they normally do things like when they done the episode with the submarine, it was great that the episode was set in a Russian submarine, because it would be easy to do a British submarine or an American submarine. The fact that they decided to go with the Cold War submarine and go with the Russian version was, I thought, a brilliant choice.
Yeah.
And it's the stories like that are what, like when they did Marco Polo with William Hartnell, they decided to shift to making more adversarial by dropping you in camp, like, and having you trips all over China and stuff like that. I mean, it's an old episode, and I know, and a lot of people don't know that episode because it's lost. It's one of the lost ones.
Yeah, I've got it as a telesnap job, but yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah. But it's always good when Doctor Who can do that, when Doctor Who can drop you into an adversarial situation. And I think what again, when we're talking about this particular episode, The Empty Child, it is gothic horror that's dropped you right in the middle of a city, in the middle of a situation that, whereby, let's be honest here, if they were being really faithful to the events of World War II, at any given moment you could have been killed. So there's already that sort of peril there, and then you get this other supernatural form going on as well. So great setting. Love the makeup, by the way. We've said it before, but the Are You My Mummy masks were designed specifically for this episode, because getting actual masks was becoming very difficult, and getting World War II specific ones was very, very difficult as well. And they had to get 20 of them. So rather than replicate or try to replicate World War II masks, they just designed this mask and then just made 20 of those for the extras. So I think it's based on a design, but I think they sort of streamlined it a little bit more and made it a little bit more bit more sleek. And I think it works so well, because that bloody thing, I mean, seriously, you could just you could go to Comic-Con just wearing sort of ruffled clothes and you'd be like, you just nobody, and then you put that mask on and everybody goes, I know what that is. It's such a simple thing. You could go with a little kid, you know what I mean? Imagine that, just have a little kid running around with a gas mask on, freaking people out.
That's the sort of thing I'd do.
Oh man. But yeah, no, great episode. Fantastic episode. Anyway, let's shuffle over, I think. I don't think if anybody in the comments got anything to add, I know Chandler's there and Ian's there. So, what do you guys think of that episode? Shall we shuffle over to the Doctor Dances? Let's see if we get a response here.
Right, I'm looking at the comments. They're not in a hurry, are they?
No. Yeah, I'm queuing up Doctor Dances. I think it's going to jump into the middle of an episode, right? Yeah, I thought so. Chandler put it's one of the greatest of all time. It's a part 2. Yeah, I'm just trying to do it. For some reason, it started in the middle of the episode.
I've got a planet Earth in front of me at the.
I'm going right back to 0. So I've got. At the moment in time, I've got nothing.
Good start.
Yeah. Waiting for Netflix to refresh. Ian put down excellent. Yes. No, it is. It genuinely is. I mean, the lighting is good. The sound is good. The music is magnificent. Um, the costumes are very well done. I mean, I was in a show years ago when I was a kid called Those Were the Days, and my mother still got a bloody video of it. And we had to do a lot of research into life in World War II. And we had to do a lot of, I mean, to the point where we went to the Imperial War Museum and spent a lot of time asking questions with people about life during the war. And the show wasn't that good, but I mean, no point. We've done all the research. So the sort of thing. I mean, as a British person, I'd say that a lot of British people are raised when they go to history class on World War One and World War Two as history. So seeing something like this, whereby they've got period-specific costumes, cars, gaslighting, this sort of stuff. I mean, it's incredibly well put together. Anyway, I'm getting ready to press play for the Doctor Dances.
Tell me when you've got a planet.
And I'm going to press play now. Nice. Buffer in, buffer in, buffer in. Bomb's going to fall on air. Click on. Flashback. We've got people running around. Oh, yeah, my mummy. Crash. You make it like him. Pie scene. Dr. Constantine. That's lovely. Seeing that fusion to the skin. I my mummy. How we on planet Earth?
Hey?
Go to your room. Go to your room.
Yeah, I've got the doctor pointing now and everyone just walking away.
Go to your room. There you go. I think we're about to get a title sequence. Yeah, everybody's walking away. There you go, title screen. Yeah. Good writing as well. It would have been terrible afterwards. They would have been terrible afterwards. So,
Yeah, the music has regrown on me again.
I hope you're all synced up.
Well, yeah, I've just had the Doctor Who disc come flashing up on the screen.
Doctor Dances by Stephen Moffat.
Yeah. And that's just faded.
Name ever. It's a terrible title name. The Doctor Dances. It's not good. They could have called it something else.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense afterwards, but leading up to the episode, you're like, what the hell is this about?
Exactly. It's a bit of. I mean, they could have called this "Are You My Mummy?" I mean, and that would have been like, oh, okay.
Or just Mummy.
Yeah.
Or just proper scary gas mask kid.
Again, so we haven't talked about this, but it says he decided to light this episode with a lot of browns. So there's a lot of woody tones to this set. So there's a lot of oranges and a lot of browns being used. He just felt that it should look a little bit more monochromatic.
Yeah, it does. If you think about a lot of stuff that was produced this time. You know, like the black and white films did have that slight sepia yellow tinge to them, so that
Yeah.
it really works well as a time setting.
It is funny though, because it does feel period specific, doesn't it? Even
Yeah.
though, you know, they had colour in World War II, we just didn't see it.
Yeah.
Back when things were black and white. Yeah, I'd have cacked myself as well. It'd have been up the wall, all over the place. That kid is lucky he wasn't beaten to death with a poker. Beaten like a large spider just run across the floor. That. Square in the skin. That's good. Bananas are good. Prevents cramping.
Not as good as fish fingers in custard, though. No one knows.
Don't be dirty. Don't be dirty. Yeah, there we go. Something went incredible Hulk on the room.
How creepy are children's toys? set in put in that kind of setting.
Yeah. Oh man, it's like have you ever seen like evacuated houses at Chernobyl?
Yeah.
Oh, it's unsettling. No, here's something that we haven't really touched on: the evolution of this kid throughout the show. Because this kid starts off a little bit more coherent than what he is at the end of the show. So it shows that this kid has actually gotten worse progressively. So he must have been much more coherent just after he had died. And we haven't got that, but there's a little bit of more humanity to the kid at the start of The Empty Child than there is now. It's weird that we don't see more spacefaring or time displaced companions just like Jack in Doctor Who. Yeah, I mean, that's always been a problem. So I think it's probably the biggest gripe is the fact that he doesn't pick up people from other times. I mean, Patrick Troughton had Victoria, who was from 17th century, and Jamie was 1600, something like that. I mean, Nissa was from the future. And so far, he's had several companions from the 21st century.
Still cracks me up that bit.
Yeah, they're just wetting your brow. So, worth noting as well, Florence Hoth there, who plays Nancy, she was actually in a show with Alex Kingston. It's a lovely little picture of her, both two together. But again, it's another character that they've got the opportunity to do a follow-up story on. Yeah. See, I didn't catch on to this. Because you didn't actually see the tape run out. You saw it coming to the end, you didn't see it run. Ah, gone.
No, no, no.
Brilliant stuff. It is. It's an amazing moment. It is an amazing moment. It's that sort of creepy horror done right though. 'Cause it's all in the setup. I wish Captain Jack still had the squareness gun. I know people like the revolver, but I kind of like the squareness gun myself. The fact that it's a digital gun and can be digital reversal.
There's a lot of it about.
Yeah. It's all the patients, isn't it? All the patients in the hospital as well. All the doctors, all the patients. A nice comedic beat after the horror moment. Yeah. But again, that's what Doctor Who does really well. I like that little moment as well. Because those two are arguing and Rose is just running around in the background.
Yeah.
But again, it's great direction. Yep, you buggered off. Yeah. And why not? I would have too. Even if he says I wouldn't have come back. That would have been the end of the show. Yeah, there's little things like even the food that they've selected and things like that. They're being very sort of war specific, so it's all like fresh vegetables and fresh fruit. I don't know how fresh they're going to be. No, you're right, Chris, as well. It's not often you see kids acting that that don't look like kids acting.
Yeah, because whenever someone says to me child actor,
Mm.
I immediately think of the kids that are in Emu's Big Pink Windmill.
Oh,
You know, the
God.
real fake smiley kids that.
It's something from a Colgate advert.
Yeah,
I tell you what I think it was done really, really well as well is the casting of Nancy,
yeah,
because they chose somebody that, and this is kind of using TV's own psychology against itself. Because normally, if you were going to cast like an American TV show, an American teen show, everybody in that American teen show is in their 20s. You know, so to see somebody in their 20s playing a teenager is not unusual. The fact that they actually call her out on it in this episode actually works for it. It's one sec. Interesting. Yeah, the typewriter. It's a bit more ghostly than that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's sort of a similar moment, but it's like it's a bit more of a ghost on the typewriter as opposed to him being.
What you was just saying about casting,
Yes.
also as well, and I don't want to be unfair, but she's a regular looking sort of plain person. Whereas in like American shows, they not only pick someone who's in their 20s, they also pick someone that's like a beauty queen. You know what I mean? It's proper Californian, roller skate person. So they pick someone.
Absolutely. I just finished watching Travelers on Netflix. 3 seasons of it. Don't watch it. I mean, I did, but it was a mistake. But yeah, it was everybody in that show was absolutely beautiful. You know, the average looking guy was a very handsome man. You know, it was yeah. Not to knock the looks of the people in this show, because Billy Piper's bloody stunning, like, you know what I mean. But yeah, no, you're right. They choose normal looking people.
Yeah, just someone you'd expect to see walking down the road.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the poor girl's got anything wrong with her.
No.
It's not like
No, she is like, if when she dresses up, she's a pretty looking girl, like, you know.
Yeah,
but they've
she's kind of
dressed it out.
No makeup to accentuate beauty or anything like that. Just a standard look, and that's like you say, it really sells the character.
Yeah, but I'm amazed they haven't done a follow up for her as an older woman, like, as in the 70s, or as a member of unit or something. Just they haven't done anything at all with this other character, which you kind of maybe think, there's probably another story there for the 60s.
Yeah.
She's maybe one of the founders of unit. I don't know. It's one of those things that, because clearly, she's there, breaking into places, and she's using a lot of initiative. Remember that female character using a lot of initiative before people point out that they don't do that these days. She was killed in an air raid, I reckon. And there's no irony.
That's bloody happy, isn't it?
Yeah. No, there's no irony in that. Not in the middle of World War II. There's absolutely none.
Well, apart from the lump of iron that comes out of the sky.
Yeah, that's the only iron E in it. It's very iron E. See, this is what had this been modern era now, that sonic screwdriver would have taken our wall down. He would dismantle those bars. It would have been built a ladder out of it. Yes. There's the jealousy going through. again, it's subtle. It's woven into the show, like, very, very subtly. Yeah, this entire set was actually built onto the side of the TARDIS. They couldn't keep the set. Only a temporary set anyway, but it was actually built onto the TARDIS set. Very small. But again, it's a brilliant piece of, because all the switches and everything that they've got on the set are all these just former airplane pieces.
I like the way it looks really beaten up and used and lived in. You know, with all the wires hanging out and
Yeah. Well, again, it's a
yeah,
reflection of the Doctor. Yeah. But it's a reflection of the Doctor. It's kind of it's a little like, it's not quite the TARDIS, but yeah, it's very similar. It's what's enticing for Rose, is because he's very similar to the Doctor, but he's doing everything in a more sort of professional capacity. It's where these two clash. They can't see each other's similarities.
Here's a question for you. Do you look at things like Captain Jack's ship when you're looking at reference for Roscoe's ship and stuff like that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not just that you would look at it for reference for design and things like that. It's that, how have they done it? How have they?
That's what I meant.
How what have they used that's useful, and what doesn't work? What does and what doesn't, because it's important to sort of like his chair. His chair works incredibly well. It's this big, tall chair. It's the centerpiece of the ship, so that works really, really well. Things like the silver grill sticking out the side is a little less successful. But yeah, no. Look, if you're gonna borrow, like, you borrow from the best. Like, you don't, and particularly when it's a set that is being recombined from other sets.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't accusing you of plagiarism. It's just
No.
there's only so many ways you can do a ship, and I wondered, like, if you'd looked at that ship, Starbug, and a few of the others to make sure yours weren't the same, I suppose.
Well, no. So I mean, when I designed Roscoe's ship, the interior design of it was based on a lot of Steve Begg stuff. So very, very similar to like Blue Midget and Starbug. It was along that line of thinking. This guy looks like when this guy transforms now. Watch the vein in his head. He looks like he's about to have a stroke. He looks so painful. He goes like purple. Yeah, he's almost a squeal when he transforms. His ship does look very thrown together, to be fair. Like, it's fine for what it is. Looks fine, but it's a ship like Starbucks, similar, grungy, lived in, less cobbled together and weird. So, when they were making his ship, like, his ship is another Chula ship. And it's...
So I'll just say the follow-up comment.
Yeah, what I'm saying is Jack's ship is a bit crap, I reckon. Yeah, so it's another Chula ship that was busted, and he's fixed it. That's the backstory. He stole the ship. It's not. The exterior design is quite sexy, and again, it's one of my problems with Doctor Who is the fact that he never shows up ever again. And it's again, it's one of those things that could populate the universe, that could be sitting there in the background. Just kill him now. No, sugar Sherlock. Stay back. Yeah, that's a challenge. Of course, I think a bit less clutter might go a long way, and there's this cheapness to it. The can't place probably the fact that it's cheap. If you're talking about Jack's ship, I mean, again, yeah, it's the fact that he has had to cobble it back together again. It was broken. It was broken. He nicked it, so anything that he broke while he nicked it, he had to replace. So he had to do all the rewiring and everything himself just so it could work.
Yeah, I quite like the clutter in the ship. I think it gives it a beat
Yeah.
up look.
Again, I like the layout of the cockpit. The back end, again, it's a little bit cramped, but then again, they were literally dealing with, they had 15 foot of space to build the set. It was literally, again, remember that they had the TARDIS set, the TARDIS doors, and they built the set on the back of the TARDIS doors, and it was between, the space they had was between the TARDIS set and the studio wall. That's all they had. It's a bad thing.
Yeah. So red flashing light of the siren is always a bad thing.
Yes. Is that a good siren? Have you ever known a siren to be good, Mr. Simpson? No, that's the siren telling me if I sold a camp event to this man, I'm going out of business.
So they've effectively managed to do another zombie story with this one, haven't they? Really,
Yeah.
it's like Chandler was saying earlier, like with 28 days later, which Christopher Eccleston was in, wasn't
Exactly, yeah.
he? He was a bit of a git in that, but yeah.
Yeah, all these sort of zombified. This is why I think Nancy would be a great follow-up character.
Yeah.
Better than 99% of the zombie stories, to be fair. Yeah. I've never been a fan of zombie stories. Just
Pride
because
of Prejudice and Zombies was pretty good.
it's just the fact that most zombie stories go, oh, it's a virus. And I was like, for the love of God, come up with something original. I mean, at least this is something original. It's technically a virus, but it's actually these little nano robots that are reprogramming people because they don't know better. The purpose isn't malevolent. It's not malevolent. They're doing what they think is the right thing. Ah, no effects. Yeah. And again, this goes back to a later plot with in Doctor Who with the Master, whereby the medical device fixes the whole planet. So this sort of scale of it is always amped up. And it does it really well. And you don't see many of those anymore. No, apparently they're making a Hellraiser TV series.
Yeah, apparently so. They're doing another Lord of the Rings series and all on Amazon, aren't they?
I don't know what's happening with that.
As far as I know, it's still going ahead. It's been held up at the moment, obviously, because of the situation on planet Earth right now. But
Yeah.
apparently that's still going ahead. But if it's going to be sort of 20 hours per book, they might actually be able to do the story properly this time.
Yeah, this is Barry Island. This is the train museum. It's not really that big to call it a museum, to be honest with you. I think it's a bit of an insult to a museum.
When I went there as a kid, it was literally wall to wall steam trains all just stood there rusting,
Yeah.
as you probably know.
Oh, there's nothing. The Railway Museum is in a building. It's inside a shed. I say shed because I mean shed. I put in Pinhead on TV. What network is allowing that? Probably starts Netflix, I think. Now then, something's about to happen in this episode that I would actually I would effectively change, and that is there's a scene the scene coming up here now where she goes to Jamie and he gets the nanogenes and he reprograms the nanogenes. He does this and he sort of reprograms the nanogenes, and when he sends them to do their thing, there's this moment here whereby he says to Rose, "Look, they've recognised the parent DNA." And I think what I would have done differently is when they do make the recognition, is I would have changed the color of the nanogenes from yellow to blue.
Yeah, fair shout.
Because there's no visual cue that they actually have. She says, look, they've recognized the parent DNA, but it's the same effect. It's just yellow dots buzzing around. It's the only smallest, look, a tiny, tiny thing that I would have done. Yep. Chain door to that little kid is nothing. Wouldn't it have been really bad if this was a terrible mistake and he just killed her?
Yeah.
Oh my God, run. Yeah, so due to the fact that they only had about 20 odd masks, all the people that you see standing around, every time they reverse the photography, everybody sort of swap and give each other the mask and go stand in different positions. They had more extras than masks. Yeah, this little bit for you now. Just change the car right there when he said it. Just it would be such a good little visual cue. Takes the mask off and he looks exactly like that.
That's a mask off with no face.
Yeah, we need a good run. Literally a smoke machine, a model, and a camera. Doctor Strange of a reference for some reason. If you're gonna have anybody ride a bomb, it's gonna be Jack. Everybody lives. Boom. Here come the Luftwaffe. Brilliant line between Richard Wilson here and the old lady. Yeah, Barry Allen's not that good. I mean, here we go. Possibly miscounted. Nice, good, feel-good ending.
That's a good line as well.
That's pointless in going to Rascal. But yeah, no, the visual effects were absolutely beautiful. Even the small effects. An excellent idea, sir, with only 2 minor drawbacks. A, we don't have any rocket pants, and B, there are no such things as rocket pants aside from the fictional TV show Robbie Rocket Pants. I don't like that sound effect. The shing sound effect is very He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. It's got that sort of Filmation vibe to it.
Might just be a good homage.
Yeah, it's okay if Jack does something and it turns out to be cheesy. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
I'd like to think it was a sound effect rather from the Space Sentinels than E-Man, though, to be honest.
Anything from Filmation. Anything from Filmation from the 1960s onwards. They never changed any of the sound effects. Yep, and that's just how the set was built. Right there. He literally just took down the back wall and now you can see the Tardis. Again, the great lighting for this is trying to be a bit more disco, but it's still very appropriate lighting. No, you can't, mate. You can't dance. You might think you can, but you can't.
Oh, the glory days of new Doctor Who, mate.
Yeah. But what a good feel-good ending, right? And that's the end of the Doctor Dances. Next week, obviously, is Boomtown. So, what do you think of that?
Well, for a change, a bit of Deus Ex Machina, but explained. So it's not Deus Ex Machina for a change.
Yeah, it actually, again, it makes a lot of sense with, you know, the actual medical pod being, because this is a thing that's designed to save people's lives.
Yeah.
And I think the overall story here is what they saying in the story is, it's not the technology, it's how you use it.
Yeah.
Anything can be perverted into a weapon, and this is a story that a piece of technology gets perverted into a weapon by accident. It's not up to anything malevolent. It's how the technology is used, and I think it's good for that commentary. I think for saying, this technology is indiscriminative. It doesn't care what you are. It's how you use the application of that technology is what makes the difference. And this is a very good example of these things were designed to save people's lives, and they were saving everybody, but just doing it wrong. I think, yeah, it's a very positive finish to the episode as well, and I think that's what makes it really, really good, because there's two ways that you can do an episode ending like this, and that is to have the plot end on a somber note, whereby there's nothing you can do, you can't save anyone, and you just got them all there for the bomb to go off and kill everyone, and that wipes out the plague. Or you can pitch it on a better way and go, right, well, or not better way, but pitch it in a more positive way and say, right, this is how we save everyone. But because it's coherent, and here's something that a lot of people overlook, and that is the fact that this series of Doctor Who doesn't do technobabble. There's very little technobabble. So all the explanations are done through like in what's the one where he takes the battery out of End of the World? when he says the end of the world, she said, "What are you doing to my phone?" And he said, "Oh, a bit of jiggery pokery." And he just hands it back to her. That's all he gives. There's no need for the technobolics that Collectors shows. And Series 1 doesn't do it at all. There's very little. We know what these nanogenes are, but they don't go, oh, by the way, it reconstructs and recombines it uses actual technical terms like it's reading the DNA and rebuilding the person in following that pattern. But it's not nonsense technobabble. It's not technobabble for the sake of technobabble. It's quite simple to follow. So yeah, what we got here? Share that on the screen. I love how the entire plot is governed in little chunks. What? I love how the entire plot is governed in little chunks throughout in tiny little pieces that don't apparently connect until the very end. It's very well written. Oh, right. So yeah. There's sort of well, again, it's a kind of a detective story. If you don't know how the thing goes together, like what Stephen Moffat has done is he understood. He decided to write the story about these nanogenes. So it's like it's like saying I want to write. He didn't go, oh, how do I write the story about this thing and how do I piece all this together? He wrote it backwards. So he wrote it as, I understand what the overarching thing is, and how the finish is, and how do you get there? So you start with the finish and then write it backwards, so that you know. Otherwise, it's like most procedural detective shows, like Columbo or Murder She Wrote or something like that. They normally start with they start with what happened and how we got done it, and then you go back to the start, and then how does this person find out? Well, this person finds out this clue, and puts it all together. So it's kind of very procedurally done that way. So I've just said that Stephen Moffat knew what the cause was, what the end result was, and then he just the less these characters know, and it's as you're writing along the timeline, really, you write in sort of like, and they find out this bit of information here, and this bit of information here. So, I mean, I'm oversimplifying it really, because clearly Stephen Moffat really knows what the hell he's doing.
It's just a shame that the further he went on as a showrunner, that he seemed to lose that ability somewhat.
I mean, again, he brought in some of his friends, Mark Gatiss, Chris Chibnall, and again, this is what I was saying to you about him being a better writer than the showrunner.
Yeah.
Because his ability for doing something like this, when somebody's given him the job to do and go, right then, what do you think of this? Have an idea for this. That's different to, now I have to come up with a new idea next week. Now I have to come up with a new idea next week. Now I have to come up with a new idea next week. This was approaching Stephen Moffat like, got an idea, and it's like, oh, I've got this idea. And this is where I think a lot of the time Hollywood sequels fail. And that's because a Hollywood sequel is normally somebody come up with a brilliant idea for the first movie, and it turns out to be this great film. And then what happens is the studio goes, we want to make another one. And then the writer's going, well, I don't have a story for another one, but I'll go away and think about it. Whereas instead of going, by the way, I've got the story for the other one already written, they come up with the idea for making another one before they have a story for it. Whereas what you should be doing is having the story for one and then going to make it. Yeah. And that's it's the arse end of looking at it, you know. And that's what happens with Doctor Who. They've got to fill 13 episodes. He doesn't have an idea for 13 episodes, and so during the downtime of the show, he's got to think of 13 episodes. Even if he's not writing all of them, he's still got to think of them. You know? So it's not an easy job to do. It's really not an easy job to do.
No, I certainly couldn't do it. I mean, I could come up with loads of ideas, but I'd be better off writing the odd story than trying to come up with a major story arc.
I mean, you know yourself. Like we've talked about different things. We've even talked about I'm going to do that show, and I'm still thinking of doing it, whereby I'm going to look up series 11 and 12 and look at the episodes that don't work and see what I would do differently. But even then, what I would do differently doesn't necessarily mean to say that it would be good, because it's all very well for me to say I've got a good idea that I would do this, but that doesn't mean to say it would pan out that way, because it goes through a filter. Making shows go through. You could write this brilliant episode. That episode that we just watched there, the Empty Child and the Doctor Dances. Give that show to a different director, and you've got a vastly different show.
Yeah.
Completely different show. That could have turned out to be really camp. It could have been turned out. The fact that the guy decided to take it seriously and go dark with it was amazing, brilliant. But that could have also been played for laughs. And it's how the fact that they lucked out with the writer and they lucked out with the director. And they lucked out with the 19 odd people working in the visual effects department that worked overtime to get it to look the way it did. Because there's things that people don't realize that are in the show. Again, speaking of the visual effects department, like in the railway yard, you can see the hospital in the background. And that hospital isn't really there. It's a matte painting. It's a digital matte. It's been inserted into the show, but it's seamless. It's flawless. That railway station is in Barry, and the hospital's in Cardiff. So everybody, they lucked out with the episode from all angles. But yeah, brilliant story, brilliant plot, good thinking, well thought out, great lighting, great music. There's really you get we've obviously got Captain Jack as well, who's just like a walking mountain of charisma, whose positivity probably. I mean, I think that's one of the other things that works really well with the story is that he wrote in a character that was an antithesis of the scenario. So the scenario is this dark, bleak environment, and here's this guy that's his absolute figure of positivity. Because you've got World War II going on, there's death all around, and here's this guy laughing, joking, having fun, and just beaming. And so yeah, there's lots in this episode to unpack.
Well, I'll tell you what. I haven't watched this series for a long time. I think I've only ever seen it all the way through twice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason for that was the whole drama surrounding Christopher Eccleston leaving kind of soured me to it a bit. But now sitting here watching it again and watching it from more of your point of view, where you're more analytical about the programs, this is actually probably the best series since New Who started, because there's a lot. You'll find when we do David Tennant stuff, there's a lot of stuff. I think David Tennant was a revelation as a Doctor. Got no issues with that. But a lot of the lovey-dovey stuff with Rose and the bits and pieces and that happened to it, I preferred this. And I think when you said earlier on, like, this series doesn't suffer from any techno babble, that made me think, hang on, yeah, I really liked this when it was first on, and I've been trying to think what it was, and it can only be the whole thing with Eccleston leaving that kind of put me off the series, because I thoroughly enjoyed this when it was first on. Yeah. Even the money savers like The Long Game, like Father's Day, and as we'll see with next week with Boomtown, they were still good episodes.
Oh look, we done Aliens of London and World War III, probably the two most pantomime episodes of Doctor Who ever made. Like I'm comparing that to like Delta and the Bannerman as well. So it's set a low bar. Even that is fun.
Yeah,
it's fun. It's for a different audience. It's for a different type of. But this one, I mean, again, we were talking before about how this series 1, aims in multiple different directions. That it's a roller coaster ride. That it touches every base. It does romance. It does fun. It does dark. It does. I mean, this is gothic horror that we just watched.
Oh yeah.
This is dark, middle of the city, zombie land. This is all these different things. It's this deep dark, and it's not this could have sunk so easily into being this just bleak story, and it didn't. This could have gone like a lead balloon, but it just rocketed up. It went totally the other direction, and that's what's good with series one, is we talk about this issue with Christopher Eccleston. I've said this before. It was a bloody mistake of the BBC to have ever asked this guy to promote the show. They sent him on Good Morning Britain or whatever it was, BBC Breakfast or whatever. They had him doing the Jonathan Ross show straight after, and they done that after the announcement that they made that he was leaving the show. Like, what are you doing? Shut the hell up. Keep the man. Let the man walk away. This is not helping the show at all. And in particular, when people saw how good he was as the Doctor. And I think this is, again, an episode like this, The Empty Child, is kind of the sort of stories I'm pretty sure those are the sort of stories Peter Capaldi wanted to be doing.
Yeah.
And in the end, he ended up fighting bloody Robin Hood with a spoon.
He did, but I'll tell you what, as much as you don't like them, I'd still rather watch 8 and 9 than 11 and 12.
Oh, no.
That's just the way I feel about it. It's got nothing to do with female doctors or anything like that. I just prefer Peter Capaldi.
No, look, I'm not knocking Peter at all. Not at all, not one bit. Again, his speech from Zygon Inversion was brilliant. His delivery in Series 10 was fantastic. The problem is that I genuinely believe that the BBC are now making the show via committee, whereas in Series 1 they didn't care about the show. Now it's a moneymaker. They can't keep their fingers out of the pie. And now it's being pulled apart by people who have got a vested interest in the show that really should have nothing to do with it. And it's harming the show because now everybody's got a bloody opinion when before they had to conform to what the censors said. It's one of those things whereby, I mean, if you look back at even the Tom Baker era, right? The Tom Baker era was doing stuff on this level of horror, fan rock, and all these sorts of shows were delving into Hammer horror. It was doing the Doctor Who version of Hammer horror, and this episode was doing a modern horror, and they haven't touched on that with New. Everything's been a bloody alien, or it's been some AI program, or it's always been put down to it hasn't gone that dark. It hasn't gone this dark, that's for sure. I'm trying to think of one that has gone. I mean, like I said, Heaven Sent probably was the one that went along this line of having this unstoppable creature slowly meandering for you. But even then, it was still a brighter show, brighter, less atmospheric show, I would say. But even so, it was still animated. Like, I'm not knocking the episode at all, but it wasn't this bleak. And again, this show went bleak and then went and up the other way. It just took off. It just ignited towards the last sort of third of Dr. Dance's, where it really sort of just the change of direction. And we haven't really had that from Doctor Who for a very long time. I can't think of one. I can't think of an episode that actually went like that. I mean, A Good Man Goes to War was a really good episode, a couple of episodes of Doctor Who. was it Last of the Time Lords and Utopia, Last of the Time Lords, The Sound of Drums. Those sorts of episodes, they went dark. They didn't go this dark or this bleak, and then swap around. So there's clearly something of interference happening with Doctor Who, whereby people should just leave the hell alone. And we know there is interference because I've said to you before, Piers Wenger, the guy who was one of the producers on Doctor Who, he does care about Doctor Who, despite what people might think. But this is the guy that became the head of BBC Drama and is now dictating to people as to who should be cast where. Why the hell is the head of BBC Drama dictating anything about your show? That's not his job. When Piers Wenger cast Matt Smith, it wasn't his job to cast Matt. I think maybe he might have been at the time, because he was just leaving that job to pick up. I mean, he probably had a meeting with Stephen Moffat about who's going to be the next Doctor, and they probably came to an agreement. But if Piers Wenger said no, it was no. And again, it was Piers Wenger who said we're having a female Doctor, and he announced that before they even brought Chris Chibnall on Doctor Who. It wasn't Chris Chibnall's idea to do that. That was the direction he was given. It just happened to be that they sort of thought similarly, and he already had Jodie in mind. But that's because he'd worked with Jodie on Broadchurch. So again, we don't really know what's been going on with the show, but there's a different feel from series 1 to now. There's a very different feel to the show. And we're not just talking about the equipment, the technology, the way it's been put together, the way it's been directed. Because, Doctor Who directors of old have come back. Graham Harper have come back to direct Doctor Who. That's not the issue. There's too many politically correct things being thrown into the show as an ideology that this show did, that we saw, we literally just watched how this show dealt with bisexuality, homosexuality, with the entire plot around these characters, and it didn't affect the show.
No, it's true. And
yet these days, they would be central to the show. There's this, I don't want to say the SJW push agenda for it, but we do know for a fact that a few years ago the BBC were advertising jobs to people unless you were white, or you couldn't be a white man and get a job at the BBC because it was part of their employment, and that was an actual thing. Which to me, it doesn't affect me because I wasn't going for a job for the BBC. But at the same time, you still look at it and go, "Ooh, that's a touch on the racist side, isn't it?" And then people can say, "Well, other people have had to put up with that for years," but two wrongs don't make a right. No. So, there's
it is wrong the way that's happened over the years, but to switch it round makes it wrong in exactly the same way.
Exactly. And it's just, it's not a question of casting diversity, and it's not a question of doing that. It's how you do it over what you do. You couldn't cast a white person as Blade. There would be uproar. And nobody would want that. You couldn't cast a man as Ripley. It's just bizarre the way these people think. The fact that they believe that they are, I don't know, being progressive.
Starbuck is a man. I just want to put that in there, by the way.
No, but so no, I tell you what, right? Because what was right with the casting of Katie Sackhoff was the fact that she nailed the character. And people can say what they like about that. I don't care. When they didn't cast Katie Sackhoff because she was a woman. They cast Katie Sackhoff because she nailed the audition. She didn't know Starbuck was supposed to be a man. So when she went in for the audition, she was playing Starbuck and just she just went and played the part, and she literally didn't know until she got home and her father said, "You went to audition for who?" Starbuck. And she was like, "But he's a bloke. He was played by Face from the A-Team." I was like, "What?" And she thought she botched it, and then she got a call back saying, "You got the part." So yeah, we thought, what? So yeah, we thought the exact same thing, Chris, my man.
Ah, see, he knows.
Could you cast a woman as what? What is he on about? What are you on about, Jan? What are you on about?
Could you cast a woman as Starbuck? And then
You know, he's got Starbucks.
Yeah, but he corrected himself right away afterwards.
Yes.
Well,
no, but that's right. So here's the thing. It's not that you. I mean, they cast Katie Sackhoff as Starbuck, but it wasn't that she didn't audition. It wasn't an agenda thing. They were looking for men to play Starbuck. She just walked into the audition and nailed it without even knowing that Starbuck was supposed to be a man. She thought Starbuck because the name sounds feminine. So she just thought it was a woman. She had no idea. So when they cast her as Starbuck, it was just because she was the character. She embodied the character. And you watch the first few episodes of Battlestar Galactica, and she is doing everything. You put Dirk Benedict one side and her the other side, and they are doing exactly the same thing. They're both drinking booze, lighting up cigars, sleeping with whoever they want, playing poker. There's no difference whatsoever between the two. I actually saw a really great picture of Katie Sackhoff and Dirk Benedict in Starbucks. They had a picture. It was Starbuck and Starbuck in Starbucks. But so anyway, I'm gonna bring up the.
I've got something to bring up before you bring that up.
Yeah, go on.
This week's appearance of Bad Wolf.
Oh, go on. Yes.
Apparently, I've had to look because I didn't spot it. Apparently, it was on the bomb that Jack caught with his tractor beam. It said Schlechter Wolf on there, and apparently that's a rather awkward translation of Bad Wolf, as Schlecht or Schlechter means bad in the sense of inadequate rather than the fairy tale-like sense of evil, which is meant to be invoked. A more proper translation would be Bosa Wolf. But yeah, it was on the side of the bomb in German. Bad German, but German nonetheless.
Bad German, bad German. So what am I looking for here? I'll go for here we go. I'll pull this up here for a second so you can just so you can understand the sort of geography of. Again, it's one of those things whereby they saved a lot of money by filming very, very locally. It's quite a sort of a trendy area of Cardiff, really. Waiting for it to load. Trendy area of Cardiff. God, that's like saying the nice side of the dump. Oh no, they've spent a lot of money on Cardiff. In fairness to them, they have spent a lot of money on Cardiff.
Which changed since I was there last month.
Oh yeah. So let me just pull this up, just so you can see. There's the map. Let's go to satellite view. Eventually. And where are we looking here? Where? There's the stadium. So where the hell? Aha. Right. So this is the main road. And this is where they were filming down this street here, which is like literally, you've got, this goes up to the Hayes. You've got High Street there. And then it's like literally the next street over. So if I drop this up, when he wants to. There. There we go. And we dropped exactly where we need to be. So there's the clock tower for Cardiff Castle. And if I turn this here, that's where the TARDIS was. Doctor and Rose come down here, and then they go down there, and it's at the bottom here, which is where the club was for it's supposed to be the sort of speakeasy. And that's it. This is also the part where she that's the roof where she comes off when she's on top of the hold onto the balloon.
Tell you what, that was a bloody good shot with a little street view, man.
It was.
It was.
I was trying to underplay that then. But yeah, so I mentioned earlier as well that there's a hidden street, and it is right there.
All right.
Right in the middle of the Cardiff, and it's this turn of the century housing, and it's right in the middle of the city. They've got the whole city built around it.
Bloody hell.
You can see it there. I don't think I can get any closer. But yeah, these houses are exactly as they were. Just haven't been touched, really. I think they've been modernised on the inside, I don't know. But yeah, it's weird that they've got this sort of little thing. But yeah, this area is normally used for Sarah Jane Adventures and things like that. I don't think they use Torchwood for it. If I drop it here, you can see what sort of area it is. But you can understand why they sort of went with the World War II area, even though it's been a sort of I don't know what they call it. It's like a modernized. I don't know what they call it. Retro, I guess. Is that on the side of the building there? But yeah, it's literally straight off the main road. It's one of these sort of pedestrianised areas. Comes right out by the castle. So that's that. The other thing is the location for. What have I done? Where'd that come from? The hell is that? Let me just have a look here. I want to go to Sesame Street. No, Barry Island. So if I go to Barry Island, that should get me there. There we go. So there's Barry. There's the fairground, the beach, which is normally seen in Gavin and Stacey. And this is where they filmed that episode, right there. And this is the railway. So if I drop this onto here, where can I go? There. There's the railway platform that's in the show. There's the steps that the doctor's on when he's talking to Nancy, I think. I think it has to be that bridge. I don't think there's another one. Let's look here. Let's go. Can I go up to the station? No. Drop that there. Yeah, that's the Railway Museum, I think. So yeah, I mean, this is all where all that at the end of that episode was shot. I don't think there's anything. Can I put that anywhere? No, you can't see anything from there. Let's try one more shot. One more camera shot. Let's try that one. there's a better view. It's not great because somebody thought, oh, I know, let's take a photograph of a fence. But yeah, down there, just literally down on this empty sort of. This was a packed railway line. You got the old station. Those platforms that side. Got the end of the line here, which it actually ends further up, but they still got it for parking trains, and it was all filmed there. So that's pretty much the two principal locations used for the episode, really.
Right. Well, while we're looking at that, I've got a share screen thing to do. So I can actually talk about it.
Yep. Go well.
Your browser has a bug. Don't worry about that. My browser ain't got a bug. If it has, it has.
Press screen. There we go. Railway yard.
Right. That is what Barry Island looked like when I used to go there in the 80s when my nan's friend. During the Second World War, my nan that's still alive was evacuated to Bridgend.
All right.
And her friend, she made friends with a girl there, and they stayed friends right up until a couple of years ago when I always called her Aunt Nancy when she died. And so I used to come and stay not that far away from you, and we used to go to Barry Island, Puff Call, and all that. And I used to go there quite a lot in the 80s when I was a kid. And whenever anyone ever says Barry Island, I see that in my head of all the trains from when I was a kid. So that's what I was trying to explain to Chandler earlier on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing those trains have been destroyed now. But I know that there is a lay-by in Cardiff, which used to have a lot of the old train houses there. So whether or not they've been moved, I think if I'm going to be fair to the actual railway authority there, I think that's been taken up and they've been destroyed, which would be a shame. But I mean, they've let them go to a point whereby they've been so disused.
Yeah, I mean, I the first time, because my second cousin, he's really into old steam trains and stuff like that. So the first time I went there with him and my nan and my mum and dad and what have you. And he wanted to go there specifically to show me. And it took us a couple of hours to walk around all the trains that were rusting like that because there was just so many of them. I'd never seen so many trains.
Yeah, and it's all steam engines as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there are many running in Britain these days.
No, there's not. I mean, they're over 100 years old now, most of them, aren't they?
But again, it just goes. But a well-maintained one still runs every now and again. But we get the odd one up here, but we don't get many. I don't see a lot of them around anyway. But yeah, it's a shame. But clearly they let them go to a point whereby they far beyond repair. Channels, but would make for a cool filming location.
It certainly would.
It did. We just watched it.
I think he means with all the trains in situ.
Yeah. But I mean, again, we're talking about an episode that spent a lot more time in post-production than most Doctor Who episodes anyway. And again, it was, I think they said it was nearly a year in post-production. So they had started working on the episode, on planning this episode out in the previous May, which had been May 2004, which has been just after they announced they were starting to make Doctor Who. So that's how early this episode was going into, going into production. Even when I don't think they would have had an actor really for the Doctor or the companion. So they must have really had the scripts quite early on. I'm not entirely sure how early on they would have had it, but that's extraordinary.
Yeah, it is. You saying about that? Didn't they originally, although he couldn't do it for whatever reason, weren't they originally going to offer it to Paul McGann?
I believe the original casting for the Doctor was Martin Clunes.
Martin Clunes? I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I like Martin Clunes, but Martin Clunes is always going to be Gary Strang to me.
Yeah, no, I believe the original casting was Martin Clunes.
Well, he could probably pull it off. He's played a Doctor in another show now, hasn't he?
Yeah. But yeah, I do believe that he was one of the people considered. Definitely. But I mean, I think what happened was that Russell T Davies had finished working on the other show with Christopher Eccleston and decided he was the guy that he knew what the guy's range was. So he just went with Chris. It's just a shame that they had the falling out that they did that ended up doing what it did. But we ended up with David Tennant. So what do you do with that?
Yeah, true enough. But having watched all these again, like we started with the end of the world this time. Having watched them all again, you realise just how good Chris Eccleston was as the Doctor.
Oh, brilliantly! Look, brilliantly. He's not pie grabbingly good, but he's got a seriousness to him that doesn't you don't feel with the. I don't even think you feel it with Peter Capaldi, and I like Peter Capaldi, but there's a sternness to Christopher Eccleston's Doctor that I think is a little bit. It runs a little bit more of aloof particularly with Matt Smith, and I love Matt Smith. The more I watch the Matt Smith series, the more I think he's a brilliant Doctor. Because he's always one that I would glance over. He's always the Doctor that I would be like, it's David Tennant. Was for me, was sort of like, oh, he's the best new Doctor. And then, but I would always glance over Matt Smith. But every time I watch more of Matt Smith, he's always better than I remember him. And but with Christopher Eccleston has this tone that he brings that I think that it adds a level of credibility whereby playing it for Luke or playing it for laughs doesn't work. The more ridiculous I find, because Space Pick, for example, it's a ridiculous situation. He plays it 100% seriously. The more ridiculous the situation, the more serious the actor has to take it. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. So yeah. So it's like when Eccleston doesn't want to come back to the 50th, so you cut your losses, downgrade John Hurt.
That's not a downgrade. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I mean, that was look. I love John Hurt, and I think that he done a brilliant job. They should not have written it in that way. They should have brought back either Paul McGann or they should have held out for a different Doctor. Because they knew that they weren't going to get Christopher Eccleston. There's no way they would.
I would have done it with Paul McGann myself. We've talked about that before, about the Night of the Doctor thing and that. If they could get him to do that, why not just get him to do the 50th? I
mean, like, they should have booked him. I mean, he was busy. That's why he couldn't do it. He only I think when they done Night of the Doctor, they only had 8 hours. So they had to shoot the entire thing in 8 hours. Whereas to do the Doctor, if they had thought about it and planned it in advance, they should have booked him. And I can understand why they didn't go with Sylvester McCoy or with Peter Davison. So I think it's a bit of a cop out saying with the explanation, but but again, the fact that they brought in this new Doctor. I mean, they burnt their bridge with Christopher Eccleston. The treatment that they gave that guy was not kosher.
No,
and it's the same as when they got rid of Colin Baker, and they said, "Oh, can you come back to the regeneration scene? Put jog on, on your bike, just another door hit you on the way out." And it's understandable. It's totally understandable. And we know it's not Chris because we know what Chris is like now because we've seen him show up at conventions and he's told his side of the story. And his side of the story is this is a man that was not in a good way, that was having troubles with his personal life and was being abused by the people that were employing him. Could have been Smith, Tennant, and Capaldi since they already cast him. They've never done a future Doctor story, and
Although he did appear in it. So,
did appear in it. Yeah, they've never done a future Doctor story. The closest one we got was the Next Doctor, which I thought was a brilliant story, and I loved the Next Doctor.
and the
But
trial
it's
of the
just
Time Lord.
so I don't mind that idea, but they just never have. They've never gone with it. It's always been a cascade backwards as opposed to because I've always said, and I think Chandler will agree with me because I think he's heard me say it before. There's no reason why you couldn't do a Doctor Who story that's set around the fifth Doctor now. There's no reason why you couldn't do it around the seventh Doctor. There's no reason why you couldn't do a Doctor Who story that's set around a different. It doesn't have to be the one that we got currently, because you could always make it part of the current storyline. And the explanation for it is that people would get confused. Well, no, that comes down to good writing because people know who the Doctor is.
Well, they've got an unlimited supply of back doctors now, haven't they? So
Oh,
there could be all sorts of things.
you're off.
I'm
Past,
trying to
present,
be
future.
careful about it.
Again, they could overwrite it. They can write around it. But I think even if this is part of the plan, it's too late now, and they've left this up to the audience for far too long. And if they were going to write around it, they should have done it before the finale. And that's just the way it is. So, past, present, future of the show. Celebrate the 50th. You know, I mean, it again when you look at the when we're talking about how good things were with the 50th anniversary and things like that, you've got to look at the Five-ish Doctors reboot as probably
That is.
and written by Peter Davison. Brilliant tribute to Doctor Who, and I do get why Stephen Moffat didn't do it because he just wanted the 50th to be another episode of Doctor Who. He didn't want it to be this whole, and now all the Doctors come together. Even though that's pretty much the end of the episode, he just wanted it to be. He wanted it to be a celebration of Doctor Who, but he wanted it to be another Doctor Who episode, which was odd because every time he wrote a bloody Christmas story, it was a bloody Christmas story, and not just another episode of Doctor Who, which was just. It's just difficult to understand how these people think. I mean, the best one for me, which wasn't a Christmas story, was probably the return of Doctor Mysterio.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, because that was shown at Christmas, but it weren't really a Christmas story.
No, if anything, it was a tribute to Dick Donner's Superman. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, and again, it's easy enough to sit there and just go, look, they should do this with the show, they should do that with the show. It's easy to say it. It's hard when you're at the helm of the show and you've got to do it. So it's easy to criticize for we don't like Series 11, we don't like Series 12. That's easy enough to say. In hindsight, you've watched the show now, and that's. I mean, the things I would criticize the show for is its expenditure, because I've got examples where I can show you, and we've sat through them, and I've gone over, like even tonight, the shooting locations for the show set in World War II were filmed in the street around Cardiff, near the studios, shot in Barry Island. It's not too far from the studios. All these locations. They're not jumping on a plane and going to piss in Tenerife for a fortnight. It's the level of expenditure that they are pumping out now. It's to me, it's a misappropriation of spending, and I'm not really seeing massive amounts of, like, just as an example, right? In what's the episode with the plastic birds? Praxias or something like that.
Yes.
That beach could have been any beach in Wales. We've just watched an episode whereby they made Cardiff look like London. you've just watched an episode whereby she was hanging from a balloon and they had a digital map painting of the entire landscape. It's very easy to make a beach in Wales look like a beach in bloody Tasmania, Tanzania, or Zimbabwe. Or
Especially if they'd gone to something like a wide open beach, like the one at Scare.
it's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy. Like a forest. It seems like when they were filming bloody forestry. It's like a forest in this place. Aside from the odd unique plant, a forest looks like a forest no matter where you are. You don't have to go to South Africa to do shots of a brick house, because I can assure you there's plenty around here.
Well, perhaps old Chibs fancied a few holidays. I don't know.
I just think it's a misappropriation of funds. I think they look at the story, they look at the budget that they got, and they just doing whatever the hell they want now. And it does annoy me because I think that a little bit of better thinking, a little bit more. You don't. The thing is, right? We watched this story, The Empty Child, Dr. Dances. Brilliant episode, outstanding episode. Probably 2/3 of the cost of what they film in an average episode today for a double bank episode.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, they saved some money by having cheaper episodes either side of it. But we still ended up with a bloody great episode.
And let's be honest, as you say, they wouldn't have spent anywhere near as much money on that as they do now on a massive location shoot. And yet, the bit where Rosie's hanging off the balloon and then planes are flying over, so that's all. I know we're not watching it in HD or anything, but that was as good as anything they've done recently, if not better.
Absolutely. There's no look. What are we comparing it to? The Pating. I mean,
Stitch goes bad. That's the
way. There's plenty of things that they could mine from the newer stuff that they could do. Like, they could actually make Tim Shaw an actual serious threat. They could do it. Will they? I don't know. But what I would say is, again, we've got memorable characters from Series 1. As I said before, we've got all the characters from Series 1 are memorable characters. Nancy is a memorable character. I've said before, Nancy is a character that could be mined for much more stories. For the 60s, for the 70s, they could do, like, what's it called? Agent Carter. You see the show Agent Carter?
I haven't. I'm aware of it.
Yeah, it was set around Peggy Carter, from Captain America. And it's set like in the 1940s, 50s, around her character. And there's no reason why they couldn't do the similar sort of thing with Nancy.
Well, of course they could. They could do a story next year set in the 1950s, and then not only would it be so many years on, it'd be the actress would have aged the right amount of years as well.
Yeah, she would have aged up. Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. No, they could have done it in the 1960, and it's been 15 years. So it's from 1945 to 1960, 15 years. So they could have done it.
Yeah, I can't remember what year that was actually set in.
I think it was 45. I think, I'm not sure, mind. Oh, the Night of the London Blitz would be 41, surely.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Let's have a look.
Night of the London Blitz.
That's why I said 1956.
Have a quick Google, just so that we know that our rough estimates are being fact checked.
I'm not Googling. I'm Dr. Wikiing.
Well, let's have a look. Yeah, Night of the London Blitz. I'm sure it was 1941.
Yeah, Dr. Spots, finding Spots, close to showing that it's 1941 in the middle of the Blitz, and closes his eyes in embarrassment.
Yes, there we are. Yeah, 1941. Yeah.
So if they'd done it as 1956, she'd have been 15 if they'd done that this year, she'd
Yeah.
be 15 years older. And there's plenty of stuff going on in the 50s.
Man, she could have even bumped into a lovely young man named Alistair Gordon. There's plenty of stuff. There's lots of, and how good would it have looked to have like a 1950s piece instead of what we always get, which is it keeps landing in the bloody 20th century all the time, or 21st century. I mean, it's just this. So again, it pisses me off at all the stuff that they are willing to dispose of, that they're willing to just ignore, that makes the universe more cohesive, that they just don't do. And it's there, it's right there for them, right there. There's Jenny, for God's sake, big finisher, mining the crap out of that. You know,
We've got a library's worth of encyclopedias in all the old episodes from 1963 right up until 2 years ago when series 11 was on.
Yeah. Oh man, look, I seen one of the fans say, oh, this was a good one as well. Joe Martin's Doctor. Somebody came up with a brilliant idea for that, but I didn't get it. I was like, huh, why would that be that the case? And then they just sort of nailed me with it, and it was a cracking idea. So they come up with the fact that Joe Martin's Doctor is actually the time meddler.
Yeah, that'd be a much more sensible.
And used the chameleon arch to match the DNA. It's just the time meddler getting his revenge because he's still stuck on Earth.
That would have made a lot more sense. Because as we discussed when we were talking about it, the thing that ruined that for me, and don't get me wrong, Joe Martin was brilliant. The thing that ruined it for me was when they pulled the TARDIS out the ground and it was
in his police box.
In his police box, which I'm sure that happened in Totter's Lane when the chameleon circuit broke. So
yeah, well, no, it happened when we watched it. We know when it happened. We watched it. We watched An Unearthly Child, and then we watched Cave of Skulls. And we know at the start of Cave of Skulls, it goes, it's still a police box.
Exactly.
So we know exactly when it happened. It's not a guess. You know, that's when this happened. That's what happened, and it happened there. But anyway, as for The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances, again, the Doctor Dances is a terrible title for an episode. They could have done something else. But the episode itself, for me, it's still a 9.2 out of 10. It's very high. Again, there's hardly anything I can pick holes in. If I'm gonna mark it down for anything at all, it's got to be the fact that there's really nothing. I was gonna say I would mark it down on points for how they handled the end, whereby again it wasn't really clear what the nanogenes were doing. There was no visual indication of them actually recognizing the DNA and stuff like that. But really, it doesn't matter to the story, so I can't mark it down for it. It's a 10 out of 10. So if you're watching this, let us know how you would mark it. What about you, Chris? How are you rating both episodes? Let's do it as a double bank. Let's not mark the first one and the second one. Let's do it as one, because it is one story. And because I give it a 10 out of 10 because the first one is an amazing setup, and the second one is just a follow through that actually works. And as you said as well, it's a Deus Ex Machina that isn't one. So
yeah, I'm going to give it 9.5, which puts it equal with Dalek, because I won't ever give anything a 10. Because there's always room for improvement somewhere. That's my cop out.
I don't think there is though with this story. I mean, even if you were to give it a bigger budget, I don't think that you could improve this episode.
Yeah, like, no, I watched it again. I would give in all honesty, yeah, I'd give the double bank a 10, but I'd also give Dalek a 10 as well. So
Yeah, but again, it like I said before, when they cast Florence Horth as Nancy, it was playing into the fact that you would normally cast somebody older to play a teenager, and the fact that they were using that as part of the thing of, oh, she's just playing a teenager, but of course she is. That's what we accept as an audience. Even though she's 59, she's playing a 19-year-old. You know, it's just the fact that they use that against us by having these smaller kids around her as well. And again, the child actors in this episode were brilliant. They didn't feel they weren't doing this every time they finished a sentence. They were very natural as well. It was everything in this episode was great. So I don't know if you guys are watching in the chat what you thought of this episode and what you would have given it. 33 and a third. Empty Child and the Doctor Dances. Let's put that up on the screen. So
32 out of 33 and a third.
That's almost a pretty good score. So that would be 9.8 out of 10. I guess 9.85, 887, 9.875 out of 10. I can't do math.
See, from memory, I'd have given this a 9 out of 10 as the two pieces together, and you know, I still think, for me personally, Dalek is a better episode. It's not necessarily a better story. There's just something I really love about that episode. But,
I totally understand where you're coming from, because again, you know, I can watch, you know, Two Mother Cybermen and put them on a separate level, you know, and again, Remembrance of the Daleks, brilliant episodes, but that's my preference over the technicalities of the episode, and I'm looking at this from the point of view of how could they have done this better? Like, could they have done this better?
Well, I was at 9.5 until you said that. Thanks. And it's like, they couldn't have done it better, because even the bit with the nanogenes changing colour, that wasn't really necessary anyway, because the Doctor was sort of talking.
The Doctor explained it.
Through it. So
yeah. So it would have been nice, but really and truly, the Doctor explained it anyway. So it's very, very difficult to say what would have been an improvement, because the cast was spot on. Casting Richard Wilson as Dr. Constantine was a stroke of genius. And that man...
We've got to work out Ian's score. Put his comment up. Got to work out... We're doing working out scores, right? Because, see, good is about a 7.5 to an 8. Very good is a 9. So very, very good has got to be about 9.75.
Yeah,
It's very, very good.
Well, it's got to be... It's almost an excellent, isn't it?
Yeah, he's almost an excellent, yeah. So 9.75, I think Ian's gone with there.
Yeah, it's a good score. But I mean, like again, you got the scene with Richard Wilson and Christopher Eccleston. That scene's amazing, and the visual effects in that still look good.
Yeah, they do.
I was amazed at how well that transition held up, because I was expecting. I don't know why, but for some reason I was expecting his face to be sort of a bubblegum pink, or do you know what I mean? To see the transition sort of just do something weird, but no, it really looked horrible. It looked like a terrible thing. And I mean, a part of that's the acting. Oh, it looked like something you would not want to endure. I guess everybody lost weight at the end of the episode. That would be my guess. Because the mask forms out of their face, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the episode, they take the mask off.
Yeah. Well, except the old lady, she took the mask off, but she got a leg back.
Well, she must have lost a hell of a lot of weight. She must have been a 500-pounder. But I think that's maybe the only thing I would change is the fact that the masks just are gone, as opposed to having people take them off.
You're talking ounces, aren't you? I know they've got a bit of weight to them. Them masks.
Yeah.
It's only a kilo.
You lost a couple of pounds.
Yeah.
There's a couple of pounds there. I love the red bicycle line as the Santa Claus. Yeah. I'll put that up. Why not? Because we are rapidly approaching 3 hours, so I think we'll call it quits at 3 hours. I think so. We'll keep it going for a little bit longer. So yeah, I love the red bicycle line. It shows the mystic mystery of the character, possibly for the first time. I think that was sort of done. I think John Pertwee done a bit of that, I mind, didn't he?
I can't remember, but it was funny.
No, it was a great line. It was a fantastic line.
And Billy Piper's acted reaction was spot on as well.
Yeah, and again, we don't give enough credibility to Billy Piper because again, there was things in this episode whereby she was doing stuff while other things were going on, and she was just having a bit of a flap in the background. She was technically acting as the companion and an extra. She was space filling the scene, and she was doing stuff. She was actively doing stuff, like the scene between her and between Captain Jack and the Doctor, when they're having that bit of tete-a-tete, and she's trying to find the light switch, and she's running around in the background. Like it's I know the director is there going, maybe we should do this and maybe we should that. Well, they've talked it out, but it just goes to show how good these actors are and how good the direction was for this episode. To have these small little moments that you can point to and go, that was brilliant. To be able to do that, it just shows you how much thought has gone into these people blocking out the scenes, working out where they should be. Again, the camera angle, different camera angles used in this episode. One sells the vertigo as it follows her over as she goes over the top of the roof, holding onto the rope. But then you got the scene whereby Dr. Constantine's sitting down and the camera's kind of looking almost up at him, and he puts his hand on the cane and puts it right in front of the camera like that, and you can see the scar over the back of his hand forming. It's a faint line over the back of his head, but it's there, but it's right in it's right there in your view. And then those sorts of shots make the episode, and it's everything about it is well done. Again, it said Vincezi chose the right color palette for to make it look like World War II, even though World War II probably looked like now, just back then.
A bit more smoky.
It didn't look sapient, but he chose the right color palette of browns and ambers to give it that sepia kind of look, even though it was in full color.
Yeah, it's fully mood making, isn't it?
Yeah, he's using mood lighting to sell the age of the episode. It made it feel like World War World War II, because all the greens of the uniforms. I mean, even when they were outside in the railway yard has been lit with a bit more of an amber light. So all the olive drab was a bit more black in tone, I guess. So it just made you feel more like you were watching like a World War II footage as opposed to watching a modern show.
Yeah.
So really and truly, that's all I got to say for it. I think it was just a really well executed and that job done by everyone. So that's that. And I think that's what we're going to call it quits. Next week, we are doing Boomtown.
Boomtown.
Yes. The return of Blonfell Foch, Pasadena Slovene. And it's an interesting episode, I guess. It's a bit more of a light-hearted episode. Again, it's a bit more pantomime. And after this one, it's kind of a palate cleanser, I guess, if you imagine if you're a 6-year-old kid watching this and you've just seen that, next week's going to be, what are they going to do to me next week? And what we get is a bit more of a light-hearted story, and should be a bit of fun, a bit of nonsense, but a bit of fun. So, what do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I haven't watched it for years, so I'm aware of what happens. And yeah, it's another cost cost reduced episode, but yeah, it's the calm before the storm of the finale. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've really enjoyed going through this series again.
It's been good to watch it with a sort of like a fresh kind of view of, and you know, we're looking at it in hindsight, retrospectively, from having seen 12 years of it, and now we're going back to watching it all through again. So, and we watch it on a weekly. Instead of binge watching it, we are watching it on as we were watching it, week by week, and I think, you know, it has given us a bit of perspective on the show overall, and where the show has gone, you know. So
certainly made me appreciate it. It used to be a lot better.
absolutely, yeah. But anyway, that's next week, which is Boomtown, and that'll be Sunday at 8 o'clock. And if you can join us, please do. You're always welcome. And until then, I shall say.
I'd just like to say to Chandler before we go on his last comment there. No, Chandler, that's your daddy.
Yes, yes, I am not your mummy. Yeah.
All right. It's been fun, mate, as usual.
Yeah. Take care, and we shall see you next week.
Ta-da.